Today wraps up Art to Heart Summer Camp. I'm super excited. I wanted us to just take a moment to sit down and just kind of recap really quickly, and also just tell a little bit about our services, but more so than anything, kind of give insight to group therapy. It's so cliche on what you see on TV, like sitting around in a circle or just not really understanding the impact of art therapy techniques. So I wanted to take a moment and just recap with my lovely intern, Keisha. This was her first experience with group as well as with providing art therapy techniques. And so I thought this would be perfect to hear from insight of just not only your first experience, but also personally, but also as a clinician. So I'll start off with introducing ourselves. I am Denisha. I am the owner of Dream Identity Counseling. I have the Art to Heart Art Therapy Techniques program that is under the sponsorship of Providence for the summer camp that we have this summer for teens ages 13 through 17. And this 8-week program was a complete blast. Introduce yourself.
And I am Keisha Attiselli. I am a social work intern. I'm interning at Providence, and Providence actually connected me with Denisha and gave me the opportunity to be able to assist her in this wonderful group therapy project, and it has just been mind-blowing, and I'm so grateful for you for taking a chance on an untried intern.
Absolutely. That's where growth happens. So thanks for being open and willing to do this in your spaces of unknown. So first and foremost, before we jump in, I think you did an absolute tremendous job. Thank you so much for your support and your help and your service through this. I've said that to you like 100 times, and I'm probably not going to stop, but I just wanted to publicly say that you were such an impact and support through this, and so diligent, so thank you so much for that. Okay, so here we go. We'll jump on in a few questions. The first question is, what was your takeaway of just the outcome of this program versus what you thought or what your perceptions were coming in?
I can say from the beginning, I think it was probably best said by a participant that and I had the same view. I thought that the group therapy was just kind of like it would be for adults. We're kind of sitting in a darkened room and just all sort of sharing very, very sad stories. And I know that it can help. I know that was just where my thought process was, but from what I have seen, I was amazed at how children connected to one another. They connected through their personal experience with the art, and it just, every session, I was like, wow, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. And it just really, and it flew by, and I am just, wow. It was amazing. I'd never done group therapy and art together, and it can work, and it's beautiful, and it's an opportunity I'm glad that you're providing this, and my hope is that other parents will see and sign up and get their children the support that they need, because this can really make a difference.
Well, I think we have to give them a little bit of insight of that, because it's one thing to drop your child off and say, okay, help the child. But I think there has to be a level of investment for parents to even understand why our services like this important, and why to kind of prioritize mental health in a little bit of an out-of-the-box way to connect with especially youth. So I think with that being said, what are some of the things that you did learn from this program, personally and professionally?
I think personally, I didn't realize that children would be as participatory with this. I kind of thought, it's going to be parents maybe dropping their kids off for like a babysitting service. But it was not that at all. This was child motivated, wanting to participate. And of course, they were naturally going to be a little bit nervous about it. But once they got involved, they really went with it. And as a clinician in training, to watch this therapeutic process take place, and a lot of times it would be, they're doing the art process, and then I'm just kind of watching it unfold and, writing things down, and then, oh my God, this is what these kids have picked up. And to hear them describe the art. And I know that they were quiet before when we first started, and then once you asked them and gave them an opportunity to talk about that art, they would share and just voice so many things. And if you just ask that same child, hey, tell me how you're feeling, you would have gotten an okay. And they were able to talk about and express serious issues that I don't think that we could have gotten them to express in such a short period of time without that. And it was just one of those things that it was very shocking that they felt so comfortable so quickly. And it blew my mind. I was like, wow, this actually works. This is so helpful for these kids.
Yeah, I think that's a very important note to, one thing that you said was they were invested. Yes. So let me be clear, a part of the criteria on the on the questionnaire, it asked, is your child wanting to participate? Yes. Reason being is because we do not force growth. We do not force people to explore their emotions, even within the group. Like, we gave them the right to share what they were processing or not. And so I just don't believe that growth comes forceful. And so while they are children, they do have the right to say no to what they are just not ready to, because their no hinders the impact of other people. And I think that we saw that in this group dynamic of one person's responses, moods, behaviors, it has a impact and a domino effect on other people. And so if we are having someone that's super resistant, which we can work with resistance, because we did, we worked with resistance, but unwillingness is different. That's totally different. So yes, if you are interested in services, your child has to be on board. The second thing was your takeaway of like, the same thing that they could express after art, they may not have been able to at face value. That's difficult to get a child to express their emotions. Adults don't even really want to express their emotions. And so the beauty about art is it digs in parts of our brains that allow us to create from places that have been stored and suppressed. So today I may be feeling a certain way, but I don't even really know why I'm feeling down, right? But then when I sit down and I really get to reflecting and creating and stuff, I realize, well, something that somebody said triggered something else. But I was able to see that based on after I got finished creating, and I realized, all right, this is why I'm feeling this way. So yeah. Okay, as a clinician, what did you learn?
I think one of the things that stood out to me the most is that children can benefit from this combination of art therapy and group in a way that I think that is different than if they were just sitting down by themselves and talking. I think that it helped to foster an environment where people felt like they could kind of disclose, the kids felt like they could disclose, because again, we're not directly asking them about their feelings, we're just talking about art. And so they were able to sort of put down things on their canvas or on whatever the project we did, and then we were able to, you gently as a clinician ask them about it. And so they were able to really start sort of sharing some things, and I don't even think the kids realized what they did, what they were doing, but once they started sharing and getting feedback from one another, and then it was such a supportive environment, it sort of kind of snowballed, and I think it encouraged everybody. So even the next session, people felt like they wanted to follow up and continue to share.
Fair. I agree. I think one of my takeaways as a clinician was you don't have to always be the leader in the room. There were some activities where it had to be just them. Like there was literally the activity where it was orchestrated for just them. But there were some where I was very intentional about getting you and I to sit down and be a part of it. Just like tonight. Yes. Like tonight was an experience of closure. Tonight was an experience of saying goodbye, which ultimately leads to grief. Even if it's not hugely impacted, by definition, it's grief. And so giving us the opportunity to connect in the way where we are creating with them and not just being the leader in the room speaks volumes to them as the client of, I'm not just the client, I am actually someone that's being supported in this.
Yeah.
that's a different message.
Yeah.
Like I can come to you for services, but you sit down and you do the services with me, there's a sense of relatability of saying, oh, so like this helps you too. Or you use this as your own coping too, or right? So it's kind of like how we respond in communication, which this is just behavioral communication. You are so willing to respond and react positively when somebody is talking with you versus at you.
Yeah, especially youth.
Yeah.
Especially youth.
For sure. Last thing, I think you kind of shared a little bit, but in wrapping this up, why would you recommend this program to somebody's child as the parent?
I would, especially for a situation where the child is having some difficulty expressing themselves. And you mentioned, we did part of it, we touched on grief, and that particular segment was powerful. And the participants in the group shared some very deep things, and I walked away, I was like, wow. I just don't know that if I would have asked that child, or if we had just sort of done the traditional therapy, we would have gotten to that, because the one child I was thinking in particular was extremely closed off. And I would not have thought that one would have shared so deeply what that loss was, that they experienced. So watching how it happens, and again, it was only 8 weeks, and when it hit, I was like, whoa, this would be someone, if we were in maybe a regular one-on-one therapy, I would anticipate it would take us a while before they really got to. If you're looking at someone who initially would barely raise their voice, I wasn't able to necessarily hear that particular child. But once we got to the point through each week, we were working, we built that relationship, she was participating, wanting to be involved. And once we got to this, to the grief portion and the way that was handled, it just...
Loud as one in the room.
Yes.
Loud as one in the room.
And the artwork was so meaningful. So meaningful. And then the other one was so meaningful. And it just 2 colors opened up a world. So
2 colors.
2 colors.
Or was only 2 colors.
2 colors, and the explanations, and then the feedback they gave and support for each other. So it's one of those things where a parent, if you've got a child going through a lot and there's been some difficulty with them accessing and expressing that, this might definitely be something to consider as a way to support it, especially if they want to get it out but they don't have the words.
You're right.
This really helps.
Yeah.
That's been just from what I watched. And again, I was like, I had no idea. Like, I didn't think it was going to go this way. And every time at the end I would ask you, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And you're like, yes, this is what it does.
It's super transformative.
Yes.
And it's a community of transformation. And we talked about that a little bit tonight, but the transformation doesn't just happen for the clients, it happens for us as clinicians. But there's also showing up at home.
Yeah.
So there's transformation in the family dynamics, right? And a lot of times we are so focused on fix my kid, they're the problem, where we don't really take accountability for, well, what do I need to look at and what do I need to be mindful of that is affecting the child's communication and responses and behaviors. And so I encourage the children and the parents of these art techniques to find your own ways to continue them as your own coping at home, and be open to hearing accountability as the parent. Because this program, that's one of the requirements. The parent has to do a parenting session for the child to be approved. And so that's the thing. It is, how are we nurturing these children through growth, but how are we just accountable from a family system dynamic? Because it's one thing to learn the tools and to have different perspectives here, but if I'm going back home to the same toxic core beliefs, and if I'm going back home to the same ineffective communication and behaviors, it's almost what I just did in this room can be null and void if there's so much resistance at home. And so we teach the parents of these are some of the things that we're working on. These are some of the things that your child are going to be learning. So as they're learning, we give you resources to, operate in your growth, but also just let you know, here's some things that they're working on so that you can show up accountable as well. So that's it. That is a wrap. Thank you again so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. This has been so wonderful.
Thank you. All right. We will be letting you guys know when the next program is. We literally just had a discussion tonight about the next one, so we'll be letting you guys know soon. And for the parents that trust me with your kids,